Welcome to Houston, Texas. With almost 2.2 million people from all over the world, booming professional industries, and fertile ground for entrepreneurs, there is no place quite like Houston. To add palm oil to the palaver, the surrounding areas like Fort Bend County, the Highlands, and Galveston Beach bring a special flair of multiculturalism and fun to what is already a great city. I am Ashley Ugwu, and this is In and Around Houston. Hello and welcome to In and Around Houston. We are a show that will provide you with everything you need to know to start and grow a thriving business here in Houston, Texas. My name is Ashley Ugwu, and today we have Lydia Ugwu, who has written and published her first novel called Bondage to Beauty. Novel. That is an incredible feat. And so we at In and Around Houston just want to hear a little bit about the book, hear about your road to writing it, and then just kind of glean from your experience in publishing your book. Okay, great. So how did your love for writing come about?
It's a long story, but basically the moment I started writing, I basically started writing books. So I remember the first book I wrote was maybe, I think I was about 7 or 8, and it was titled How to Read and Write.
Nice. What encouraged you to do that?
I don't know. I just sort of had this urge to write, and I found like when I'm writing, I just felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's, you know, you just feel that this is you. You feel alive when you're doing it. And so I showed it to my parents, and they were so impressed. Like, wow, this is good. And that spurred me to keep writing. I thought, okay, maybe I'm so good. And then from there, every, empty notebook I see, I start writing a story in it.
That's awesome.
And it continued from there, and I kept honing my writing. But it got to a point where, sometimes you have this surge of inspiration and you just write. And then the inspiration recedes and you think, okay, I'm done. So at some point I thought, I need to write a book and finish it. And that's when I started writing this first novel.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so I think that is something with creative people. It's easy to just start the project when you have all the energy and the excitement behind it, but it really takes that extra push when you don't feel like doing it anymore
exactly.
to get the project done. So I commend you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how did you decide that Bondage to Beauty would be the title?
Do you know what? When it comes to titles, I am terrible at choosing titles. It's like I keep agonizing. I started writing this book in 2003.
Wow.
I finished the first draft 2008, and I continued. It kept evolving the story. But even at that, I can tell you I've had so many different titles. And right up until the time I was about to publish, I was still agonizing over a title. Sent it to my friends, like, what title do you think? At the end of the day, my sister just came up, you know what, just call it Bondage. I'm like, I'll go with that, because I've changed title like 5 times. I need to.
So what did it start being called?
When did it?
Like, what was the first title that?
Okay, so the first title was The Unyielding Dreamer, which,
it's not as, enticing, I guess, as Bondage to Beauty.
Yes. And then at some point it evolved to The Journey. And they're like, okay, that's a little
vague.
Yeah. So I just, when she said Bondage to Beauty, I thought, okay, that has some kind of nice ring to it.
Yeah. Awesome. So for you as the author, what is the message behind the story?
Okay, the message behind the story is a message of hope. Because we're all going on a journey in life, and everybody along the journey, you have challenges. There are times you want to just give up and I can't do this anymore. But regardless of the challenge you're going through, there's always hope. You have God, you have family. There's always something to keep us going. And so it's like, don't give up. Even when life feels like, it's not going to happen, there's still hope.
That's great. So, you have a character in the book named Nkili.
Yes.
So, tell me about Nkili.
Okay.
What is she like? What is her backstory? And what is it about her that you relate to?
Okay. So, coming up with this character, because I draw inspiration from people's stories, and I was listening to somebody's story and I thought, that sort of resonates with me. And I could there are also aspects of my life that I thought about when I was writing the story. So she's like a combination of different experiences. But what I do like about the character is her spirit. She has this unbreakable spirit, and she's gone through the tragedy of losing her father. She has all these dreams and responsibility of taking care of her siblings, her mother. But she keeps pushing through, and every time she falls down and thinks, I can't do this, she dusts herself and gets up and keeps. And for me, that resonates with me. This is a character that I can identify with.
Right, and I think many people, especially young women, could identify with her.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Lydia, Nkili is described in the book as a very beautiful woman. And because of that beauty, she has certain advantages and she faces certain disadvantages. So do you feel like that's a common problem for women?
It is. I mean, women facing, yes, in a sense. I know beautiful women do have an edge. I mean, it would be disingenuous to deny that. But at the same time, I think beauty can be a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's opening doors for, Nkili. She gets married and she has this husband and everything, but at the same time, he's not seeing her as a person in her own right who has all these. He's maybe seen her as an arm candy, somebody he can put on his arm and take around and show off. So, and you have all this, I'm sorry to say, like the concept of the dumb blonde and all that. So people just feel, she's a beautiful face, that's all there is to her. They don't give the person the chance, like the benefit of the doubt, that okay, this person might have dreams, ambitions, be intelligent. I was reading a newspaper and they had an experiment where there was a brunette and a blonde, and people were more willing to help out the brunette, but the blonde lady who was making this error, they felt, okay, it's just it's in her character. So in that sense, yes, I think it can be a good thing, and it can also be a disadvantage in some ways.
Yeah, and so do you feel like that problem is more prevalent or less prevalent in African culture?
In African culture, I think it's more prevalent. I think a lot of beautiful women, they have the advantage of, to me, I don't know if it's an advantage, because you can get married to a rich man and he takes care of your family and what have you, and you can get a job, for instance, but what are the expectations attached to that privilege that's given to you? Okay, you're getting married. Is he going to allow you to be a person in your own right, or is it just about the beauty? And then you're getting the job, but is he expecting that they're going to, you're going to give something in return for being given this favor? So I think, as a woman, you don't just want to be seen as a pretty face. You want to be seen as somebody who's respected. You have so much going for you, and that you're working towards. And everybody should have. I don't like the idea as well as saying this person isn't good looking and just waving them off or writing them off and not giving them opportunities. People should be given equal opportunities regardless of their looks. That's something I'm really passionate about.
That's great. Thank you. So what is one thing that you hope for the readers of this book?
I hope they'll be inspired, to be honest, because when I was writing the book, it ties in with my Christian faith as well. I thought about, okay, I need to write a book not just to entertain and to engage, but also to inspire people, whatever you're going through, that God is there with you. And that's why part of the reason, I thought of, okay, if I'd gone the traditional route, like I was trying to find the traditional publisher, literary agent, would they have forced me to cut out some bits out of the book? Because I do reference like the Bible, God, and she prays. it's saying that I like people to take away that, you know, whatever you're passing through, God is there with you. You might feel abandoned sometimes, but God is still the, you know, maker of the universe. He sees you, he knows you, he wants the best for you. So just keep on hanging in there and don't give up on God, don't give up on your faith. Keep working towards your goal, because there's always going to be light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, it's just to inspire people that it's not over yet. You know, keep pushing through. Yeah.
Great. So let's talk about Nkili's Uncle Atama.
Okay.
So I want to know, who does he represent in your life?
Honestly, I'll laugh because my siblings read the book and I think, like, I know the uncle. I know the uncle. But he was an uncle that I lived with for a while when I was growing up. And he had this kind of tough love as well. But he was a wonderful person. I mean, he had the best heart you can think of.
Because I really see him as kind of a hidden hero in the story. You know, he encourages Nkili from the time she's young to the time she grows up.
Yes.
You know, he sets these high standards for her, and he makes sure that she reaches them. You know, it's really great. And who wouldn't love to have an Uncle Atama in their life? You know?
I think we all do. But when people tell their stories, they neglect to, you know, recognize the people that push them. But even when people say I'm self-made, nobody's self-made. Right. There's somebody in the background who is pushing you, encouraging you. It might not be an uncle, it might be a friend or a sister, but we're always riding on somebody's wings. There's somebody there. I mean, regardless of how you're struggling on your own, there's always someone in the background who's encouraging you and, you know, sort of willing you to go on. So we all have these Uncle Atamas in our lives. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you did not go the traditional publishing route. Give us a little insight into how you got your book published.
Okay, so like I told you, the first draft was completed in 2008. I started looking for a traditional publisher, and they said, oh no, you need to go through a literary agent. So I started writing to literary agents. Then I was in the UK, so I'd write to lit agents in the UK, here in the States, in Canada, and I have a folder full of rejection letters and I, we're sorry, you know, it's not really what we're looking for, or that.
How many?
I'd say like over 30.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just reeling them out.
So how did you stay encouraged during that process? Tell us about that.
It's funny because I would get, like, at some point I was like, okay, I put it on the back burner and I started writing other stories and blogging, so I'm not focusing so much on the rejections. And at some point I would, you know, take the story off the back burner, write it a bit, polish it, but I'm glad it happened, because, you know, if I didn't have that time, the story may not have evolved to what it is right now. But it got to a point where my dad and my siblings were like, okay, what's happening with this book? You've been, even my friend said to me, you started writing this book before I had my son. My son is 10 years old. And you still haven't published it. Okay, don't worry. And that's when, and you know, in my spirit, I felt I need to let this book go. So that's when I started looking at options, and I found CreateSpace, which is, I think, under Amazon, to be very helpful. So
okay, and is that like a software that allows you to upload your book?
It's self-publishing basically.
Okay.
But the good thing about it is you don't need to pay anything up front. All you need to do is have your book, upload it, and then they print it, and whatever royalties you get from the book, they remit it to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So later in the show, I want to go over this CreateSpace with you to see how you could possibly publish your own book. So let's now talk about Emeka in the book.
Okay, yes.
So tell me about a little about Emeka, and then tell me how his character came about.
Okay, so you know, when you're writing a story, it's never complete without romance.
Yeah,
so right from the start, I thought, okay, Nkili needs a boyfriend.
So it's that thing that gets everyone excited, you know,
Yes.
makes you want to keep reading. What's going to happen with her and Emeka?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's how I thought about him. And I thought back to a particular boy in primary school who we were always at loggerheads and constantly getting on each other's nerves. It never panned out the way Nkili and Emeka panned out. But that was the start of the character when I thought about that little boy when I was back in primary school. And that's why they were both always grating on each other's nerves. And then it sort of evolved into a love story from there. But he was the person who was like a cheerleader to start with before... You know, Uncle Atama was there, of course, but he was the other person who was inspiring her as well and pushing her.
Yeah, the one who was challenging her to kind of do better and be better.
Exactly. And they were dreaming together, and, you know, her future was built around, like, Emeka too. She thought, okay, you know, when we get married. So it was also, we all have those people in our lives that we think, okay, they inspire us. And we think, okay, we can do this together. So
That's awesome.
good. Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about your Christian faith and how it played into you writing the book. What do you feel your legacy with writing this book will be? What do you want it to be?
Honestly, I'd like this book to get people thinking about God. Because a lot of people have turned their backs on God. And for instance, I was listening to a BBC program, Radio 4, and an author there was saying that, you know what, in the past it was easy for her to include God in her books, but now the publishers are just like, take it out. If you're not criticizing religion or, you know, slamming religion or something of that nature, no, they don't want you to talk about God, religion. And I would like to redirect people's, you know, eyes and perspective. You know what, God is still relevant, even though people want to cut him out and make him some kind of joke. He's still the center of the universe, and he can still make a difference in your life. I know people, it's the in thing now to sort of write off religion. Oh no, I'm agnostic or I'm an atheist. But if you look around you, and it's difficult to deny that there is a God. And that would be my legacy, to get people talking again about God, thinking about the higher meaning, purpose of life, as opposed to just living every day and dying without discovering their purpose. So Nkili, for instance, she had a purpose. She had a sense of purpose. And in everything, you know, God was with her every step of the way, and he helped her. And at the end, it would still end with God being at the center of her life. So I like people, you know, at the end of reading the book to think, okay, let me try to have a relationship with God.
Maybe he can pick me up,
Yes.
help me to dust off and carry on.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
great. So tell me, Lydia, what's next for you? Like, what direction are you heading in?
I'm still writing. I would like at some point writing to be the main thing that I do, and just, you know, sit down in my cottage by the lake and write write books. But I have a second book in the pipeline, which I'm already working on.
Awesome.
And I hope to finish that in the next year or two.
Okay. And just please make sure that we're the first people that get to know when you have this new book.
Definitely.
Okay, please.
Yeah, I will let you know. And just to continue writing and hopefully continue inspiring people, that is what I'd like, because I feel that's what God has called me to do. So
That's great.
yeah.
That's awesome. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the cultural aspect of the book.
Okay.
Yeah, so you obviously have like an English or a British accent,
Yes.
right? But you seem to have just some keen insight into Nigerian culture. Where does that come from?
Okay, so I grew up in Nigeria. A bit about my background. So I spent like the formative years in the UK. That's where I was born.
Okay.
And then my parents, because they were students, in the UK, and then they moved back to Nigeria.
Okay.
So that's where I did my secondary school.
Okay.
And after I was done with secondary school, I went back to the UK. So I'm always thankful that I have, you know, both sides. I've experienced both sides, and it's nice for me to be able to bring that into my writing, not just talk about, you know, the Nigerian culture, but the British culture. It makes it richer and brings a better perspective, I feel.
That's great.
writing.
And so what brings you to Houston?
Well, first of all, I came to study, and then after studying, I started working. So I came in 2000. I came to Houston in 2015, actually, and I came to work. But I came to the States to study. Then I came to Houston because Houston has the economy is doing well, and yeah, you have different cultures in Houston. It's a wonderful place to be. So
Yeah, that's awesome. It certainly is. We love Houston. I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to answer these questions.
Thank you for having me.
For giving us some insight into Create Space, and then setting up the anticipation for your next book. Like, we are seriously waiting.
Thank you.
And we just hope all the best for this book.
Thank you so much.
That it will succeed, that many people would read it and feel closer to God, and just that your message will just come across.
Amen.
We really do.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Ashley.
No
I do
problem. Thank you,
appreciate it.
Lydia.
Thank you.
Sweet mother, sweet Africa, take me
This is In and Around Houston. Right now, we're going to be speaking to Tosin Asojo of Montage Den. Tosin is a photographer who knows how to take pictures and put them together into beautiful montages for your event. Tosin, tell us about your business and how you got started.
Growing up, my dad took pictures. He actually took film pictures and developed them in his studio. And watching that drove some kind of interest in photography for me. And when I got done with college, graduated, started working in my professional career, I felt an itch. All through my younger years, I took pictures, but nothing serious. And then it got to a point in the past couple years where I felt an itch, and that nudge and my past inspiration from watching my dad do something similar is what drove my passion for photography and starting a business.
Great, great. What has been your most satisfying project so far?
That's a great question. I take pictures of my daughter every day, and I take pictures of my wife at least once a week.
Great.
I wouldn't call those projects because those are more of personal passion. And in terms of commercial projects, I work with charities. Specifically, I work with the United Way on a yearly basis. They have an online auction, and what I do is I donate my service to assist the fundraiser they have. And that is always very satisfying, especially when I get to work with the clients that win the auction item, which is usually a 2-hour session or 4-hour session with their family.
Great. So Tosin, whose work inspires you?
I'm inspired by a lot of people, and I try to take bits and pieces from whoever's work that I see, and I find something I can leverage. But personally, I adore Fela Kuti. And the reason why I adore him is because he takes his craft very seriously. If you ever watch one of his stage performances, you can see the intensity and the passion by which he drives his singers, his pianists, his guitar players. So that I find very inspirational. First thing you have to think about is the lighting. The first and most important and fundamental thing about photography is lighting. If you have the right lighting, you can make any picture look perfect. But on the flip side, there are tools like Photoshop and on demand that you can use to edit pictures to make them pop. The other thing is also to use whatever camera you have on hand, because that takes a picture, and a picture is better than no picture.
I see.
But people get caught up in trying to buy the most expensive tools to take pictures, but at the end of the day, technology has come so far to where you can use your Samsung or your iPhone to take an amazing picture.
Great. Thank you.
Pretty much all my life, I was the guy in secondary school. Actually, primary five was when I started taking cameras with me everywhere I went.
Great.
I went from having the Kodak cameras, and I went to the Kodak Advantix. I also had the Polaroid, but that was in a personal camera. But went to the Kodak Advantix and a few other cameras iterations before I finally got to this point.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's see. You mentioned Photoshop and on demand. What other technology do you leverage when you're editing your photos?
I really only leverage Photoshop, but I try not to leverage too much technology because in a lot of cases it takes away the natural feel of the picture. And I mention Photoshop because there are situations in which you get a shot and it's the perfect moment, but not everything is in place in terms of the possibly maybe it's a picture of a couple and someone walks behind them and that could ruin that perfect shot, but you can use tools like Photoshop to touch that up.
Great, great. So concerning working with clients, what would you say is the key to a successful client relationship?
The one thing is to absolutely understand what your client's needs are. And once you have that fundamental understanding, you let them know if you can meet those needs. And if you aren't able to meet those needs, you propose whatever suggestions you have to find a good medium between what your client wants and what service you can actually provide.
Great.
10 years from now, I hope that Montage then is able to provide services that especially impact the community. I take photography not just for my clients, I also do some volunteer work. And I've taken pictures to support the United Way and to support a couple other charitable organizations. And I hope that 10 years from now, Montage then is grown to the point to which we can make more of an impact in the community.
Thank you, Tosin.
Thank you.
Take me back to
So when you're starting a business, you want to be sure that you're putting your best foot forward and portraying yourself in the best possible light. This oftentimes means working with freelancers, such as graphic designers, photographers, and event planning. Now this process could be hard to decipher, but do not fear because we have 10 tips for working with freelancers. Tip number 1, request or search for reviews. This is important because although you may be working with someone who is talented, you want to be sure that that freelancer has the expertise in business that you need to get a great product at the end. Now, when you're searching for reviews, you want to see that that person not only has great work and has a great portfolio, but you want to make sure that they have a system in place that will make sure that everything is streamlined and efficient for your project. Tip number 2, get 3 price quotes and make sure that when you choose, you're not just choosing on price, you're also choosing on the quality. This means you're going to take those reviews into the account. So you're not just going after the cheapest option. You don't want cheap work and you get what you pay for. You are going after that quality product. And if that means you might be paying a little bit more than you desire, you should go for it because at the end of the day, you want the best for your business. Tip number 3, set clear expectations from the beginning. This means that you need a contract. You need to be sure that you and your vendor knows how much it's going to cost, the time it's going to take to do it, and how you two will be working together. You need to know how many days it will take for a turnaround. You also need to know, when you're working together, what materials do they need from you. When you set these expectations up from the beginning, you are sure to have a smoother process. Tip number 4, set a clear project scope and timeline. Scope is a word often used in project management that tells you what exactly is entailed in this project. If you go to asherboy.com, the Research Center will have a creative services guide for you to follow in setting a project scope. This means that you have some work to do before you ever hire your vendor. The vendor is essentially a subject matter expert, so only bring them in on the things that pertain to them, and you have some work to do in the background to make sure that your vision is coming to life. Tip number 5, be thorough yet constructive in your critique. You want to be sure that your vendor knows what it is you do and don't like about their work. But you don't want to bully them, because essentially when people are freelancers, there is a creative process that takes place. And when you are giving unconstructive criticism, you're really only standing in the way of that person's creativity and their creative flow. So make sure that when you're criticizing, you are constructive. Number 6, understand your tax requirements for payment. 9 times out of 10, freelancers are going to be what we call independent contractors. That means that they file their taxes and they are responsible for paying them. And whatever they decide is the price, they give that to you, the customer, with the taxes included. So you should not be paying any taxes on top of a freelancer's cost. Tip number 7, be courteous and respectful at all times. This seems like a given, but you would be surprised. Some people, when they think business, they think cutthroat and vicious, but that is not so. When you have a pleasant demeanor, people will want to be around you, and it will clear out any confusion as to what your intentions are in a business deal. Tip number 8, form concrete and real relationships for future projects. You never know. That person you meet at a networking meeting could be your future business partner. You want to make sure that you're fostering good relationships, and that when you have synergy with someone, you support that synergy, so when you are ready, when the timing is right, you can have a great project with that person. Number 9, you're going to have a timeline, you're going to have a scope for your project, but you still need to be flexible. You need to trust the artist and their process. At the end of the day, it's going to benefit you and your final product. Number 10, understand and adhere to their payment terms. You're talking about somebody's income. You don't want to flake on payment. Pay your bills on time, every time. Thank you. That has been 10 tips for working with freelancers.
Yeah, that's their job, man. Hating, talking, that don't get to me. Hey, hey, never frown, no, never frown. That's what they want. Always smile, yeah. Life is crazy, but I'm still going, yeah. They won't stop me, but I'm still standing, yeah. I'm the illest, that's what I'm saying. Taking over, they think I'm playing, yeah. They be talking and they be snitching, don't like snitches, all in my business, yeah. They be hating, jealous, they working, jealous, they working. They be hating, jealous, they working, yeah. When they hating, I just be chilling. So I tell them, get on the floor, have some fun. To the beat, let it rain through your veins. Life is just so do it. Life is just so do it. Life is just so do it. Do it, do it. I say get on the floor, have some fun. To the beat, let it rain through your veins. Life is just so do it. Life is just so do it. Life is just so do it. Do it, do it. Enemies will come around just to bring you failure. Every time you hit the ground,
to you by Tradesman Market. Special thanks to Lydia Ugwu, Ray Schilens of Radio Lounge USA, and Tosin Asojo of Montage for helping to make this episode possible. Did you miss anything today? Catch this episode again on YouTube at HMGTV. Just search In and Around Houston. To learn more about these individuals and businesses, visit inandaroundhouston.com and be sure to subscribe to the newsletter to get this information to your email each week. And for the full training on working with freelancers, visit the Resource Center at ashabori.com.